So, how is Donald Trump doing these days? Well, the last few months, he's been harassing every law enforcement official in government to make sure everyone knows that he is not under personal investigation by the Justice Department. Well, this week, Trump is now under personal investigation by the Justice Department. Yes, it is the big Trump story this week. They are trying to get him for possible obstruction of justice. Now, how do we know he's being investigated? Well, because President Trump tweeted about it. The head for the special counsel to investigate the Russian collusion has now hired 14 lawyers to look into multi-levels that this story is taking. The vice president has now hired an outside lawyer. Even Trump's own lawyer has now hired himself a personal lawyer. So everybody is lawyering up. But the big question is, will Trump fire the guy that's investigating him? Or will he fire the guy that hired the guy to do the investigation? Of course, now, that guy was the same guy that recommended Trump to fire the original guy that was in charge of the investigation. And if he does indeed fire the guy who's in charge of the investigation for obstruction of justice, is that not obstruction of justice? President Trump tweeted, "I'm being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director." Witch hunt? Will Trump fire the special counsel Robert Mueller just like he did the FBI director Comey for not being loyal? He fired dozens of U.S. attorneys, including Brett Bharara, who was supposedly on the Trump's heels for a host of legal issues. Those close to the president say he is fuming every day about the actions taken by the Justice Department. He's angry at Rosenstein, the DOJ, second in command there in DOJ, for appointing a special counsel, and he is furious at the head of the DOJ, the longtime ally, Jeff Sessions, for recusing himself from the Russia investigation. All Trump seems to want was for the public statement to say that he was not under investigation. But now, after firing all these people and threatening to fire them and tweeting about it, he's found himself under investigation. Now, we have discussed this on the Jam before, and just to be clear, Mr. Rosenstein did recommend to Trump to fire the FBI director. However, Trump did say that he made up his mind even before he got the recommendation. And now he claimed Rosenstein is investigating him, which is not exactly correct. He's only supervising, not actually doing the investigation. Mueller is the guy Rosenstein hired to do the investigation. I hope this isn't too confusing. Anyway, Senator Dianne Feinstein of the California ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee said she was growing increasingly concerned that Trump might attempt to fire both Mueller and Rosenstein. She said, if the president thinks he can fire the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein and replace him with someone who will shut down the Russia investigation, he is in for a rude awakening. So now, Trump is so upset that this past week, he called an emergency meeting of the whole cabinet. Now here's where things go from crazy to just downright bizarre. First off, let's just recap. Currently, there is a Republican-controlled Congress that has not passed a single piece of legislation since Trump took office. His budget was laughed off as magical thinking. His travel ban is tied up in the courts till possibly the end of time, and his job approval rating is around 36%. So this meeting starts out with Trump praising Trump, telling everyone just how great a president he is. We've achieved tremendous success. We've been about as active as you can possibly be at a record-setting pace. Then Trump decided to go around the room and let everybody give their name and say a few words, kind of like what we used to do in the first day of school. But what's next was just something like you would see in maybe North Korea. Each one of these powerful people had to say what an amazing person the president was and how they were so privileged to be working with him. He started with the vice president, who said, "This is the greatest privilege of my life." "My hat's off to you," said the energy secretary, praising Trump for leaving the Paris Accord. "I think the international community knows we're back," said the UN ambassador. "I want to thank you for getting this country moving again," said the transportation secretary. "I apologize for being late to work," said the U.S. trade rep. "For months I got bogged down in the swamp that you've been trying to clean." But the best came from Reince Priebus, whose job security has been possibly the next to be pushed off the cliff. He said, "We thank you for the opportunity and the blessings that you've given us to serve your agenda." All the comedy shows have been having a field day with this. But none could have been better than Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Democratic Party, who made a spoof video that featured his staff praising his performance and his hair. Also this week, Trump had a birthday. How do we know he had a birthday? Well, he told us on several occasions. But what he got on his birthday, I'm not sure was what he was hoping for. The head of the Department of Justice, Jeff Sessions, was dragged over the hot coals of a Senate hearing as senator after senator fired off a barrage of questions, mostly about Russia. He started out with a statement that said that the suggestion that he colluded with the Russians during the election is an appalling lie, which of course we all know he lied about meeting the Russian ambassador during the confirmation hearing. When he was asked about this particular meeting, he said he does not recall any such meeting with the Russian ambassador. He said maybe it happened, but it was just a brief interaction. When he was asked to talk about the Comey firing and what Trump said to Comey, he refused to answer. When they asked why he refused to answer, he said, "It's the policy of the DOJ not to answer that." To which the senator said, "What policy?" To which Sessions refused to answer. The rest of the testimony was pretty much the same. Lots of "I don't recalls" and "I can't answer that question." But the best part was when Senator from California, Kamala Harris, just ripped into Mr. Sessions every time he would try to divert the question. She would ask it again. At one point he said she was going too fast and made him nervous. Finally, some Republicans came to his rescue and interrupted her enough that her time finally ran out. So the president has dismantled healthcare, education, environmental protection, and the U.S. Bill of Rights. But can he dismantle the Russian investigation? 60% of the population disapprove of the president, and most of them want to see a final outcome of this investigation. I guess we will have to tune in again next week to see if Trump, can get out of this week's trap. We're here on The Jam, just talking about things going on around the world. Here's an interesting story. Gemini